What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more trance. We're going to listen to a tune from 1999, so more turn of the millennium progressive slash melodic trance. It has a lot of energy and drive, though it is fundamentally a very melodic and indeed euphoric type of trance tune. It has an ecstatic quality to it. And in that regard, I'd say it is sort of a marquee track if you were mixing a trance set of late 90s, early 2000s trance. I think you'd give this one a prime position in the set, maybe the last tune, maybe right in the middle with a couple less dramatic tunes around it so it could really, sort of shine in the center of the set. But yes, it's by Jupiter Prime, an artist, maybe a duo, maybe a group, I'm not sure, that I don't know much about. It's on the label Unsubmissive, which I think I have 2 or 3 Unsubmissive records, but definitely not a label that features in my trance collection the way some others do. And the track is called Dreamphase, and there's 2 phases, Phase 1 and Phase 2. We're going to listen to Phase 1, so perhaps the first version of the track, perhaps the main version of the track as far as Jupiter Prime is concerned. Phase 2 is also good, perhaps we'll come back and do a reaction to that one at some point, but Phase 1 is definitely the version that I used in more of my sets. As you can see here, this is another one I got at Vinyl Fetish up off of Vermont in Hollywood around, I'd say probably 2001, 2002, during a period when I was going up to that record shop quite a lot with a couple of my DJ friends. So let's give it a listen. This is Jupiter Prime, the track is Dreamphase, and this is the Phase 1 mix on Unsubmissive Records. That little electric squiggle, if you're mixing into this in the middle of the set, it's a nice tease, a nice foreshadowing.
Let us slay him and cast him into some pit, and we will say, some evil beast has devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams.
times around track. That outro is very nice for a DJ, and I say that partly because of that electronic squiggle, which I mentioned is, if you know this track and you hear that starting to come in during a set, like it immediately is recognizable, like, oh wait, I think this is Dreamphase coming in. But we have that right to the end of the outro, and so it's the kind of tune that you can really slow mix out of and, use all of during a transition. And even beyond that, notice how the last, I don't know if it was the last 32 or just the last 16, I think it was the last 32, there's no kick drum, which, the longer you do a double drop, the more danger in terms of the two kick drums getting out of alignment. Now, again, if you're a DJ of experience and you have a good ear for like which track might be slightly faster, which is something you just sort of, maybe you have it inherently, maybe you develop it over time. I feel like pretty early on I had a good ear for it. You get a sense for which one is slower or faster. You can make quick adjustments, either slowing one down or speeding the other one up, and sort of keep them aligned. You can even adjust the pitch gauge slightly and try to bring them even more perfectly into alignment while you're playing both of them out. But of course, if one of the tracks, if the outgoing track drops the kick drum, then even if they're slightly misaligned, you might not even notice it because, you hear just the one kick drum from the incoming tune. So any track that in its outro features some of the melodic or synth bass elements continuing right to the end, but pulls out the kick drum, it's like helpful because you can do longer double drops without having to worry that, it might get out of alignment to the point where people might hear it. So yeah, I like the way the track is constructed. It's both, good just from a chronology, like, pure art point of view, but it's also very handy and effective for DJ purposes. And yeah, again, it's a very ecstatic, like euphoric, hands up in the air kind of trance tune. I do like during the second breakdown when the main melody gets a bit choppy and then it's sort of like fluctuating back and forth between that chopped version of it and then the bigger, like fuller version. And then after the second drop, after a couple measures, it goes to an even higher, like, I don't know if it's key or if it's just like the chords adjust slightly, but it gets even more elevated and intense. So, yeah, it's a classic late 90s, early 2000s kind of tune. I did remember playing this at a party one time while I was listening to it just now. And it was one of those moments that, as a DJ, and I played my first party very late 99. I started playing a bit more regularly starting in, like, I think it was February or March of 2000, and then for the next couple years I played a few dozen parties in that original phase of my DJ career. And like the first, I don't know, 10 or 12 parties, one of the most enjoyable things is hearing these records that you knew very well, because you buy a record, you listen to it more and more, you use it in a mixtape, you're mixing in your house or maybe some like smaller parties, because again, in that period of my DJ life, I played at some like house parties where, there'd be like 20, 30 people. I'd bring my turntables over, I'd play a set. So you hear your tracks in your headphones on your own like little amp, maybe at a party with some like slightly bigger speakers or whatever. But playing at rave parties with like a full like wall of, half stack and like other significant speakers, hearing tracks that you knew well and enjoyed played that loud to where you can feel the kick drum in your chest and you can hear the melody like echoing throughout the room or the warehouse. Like, it was a real enjoyable treat. So I do remember hearing this tune when I was playing it in a set. Again, I'm going to say like maybe '01 or something like that. And there was a moment where I took off my headphones and just hearing it out in the full acoustics of the room is like, damn, this tune sounds good, very loud. So yeah, that was one of the joys of DJing. So yeah, shout out to Jupiter Prime, whoever they or he or she might be. Ultimately, I'm going to guess a duo. For some reason, I have this, like, maybe distortion, maybe, like, lingering memory. But, yeah, I feel like it might be more than one person. Shout out to Unsubmissive Records. Shout out to late 90s, early 2000s trance. Shout out to all of you who've been following these trance and techno and, electronic, like, rave music reactions. You are very much appreciated. It is, of course, the original essence of my reactions, meaning on my old channel, which I had to switch over to this one now about 3 years ago, I had begun for a few months when I began doing reactions, and it was almost entirely trance and techno and hardcore and those types of genres until I moved into punk rock and then synth pop, and then the world was my oyster after that. But yeah, shout out to those of you who've been following these reactions. Let me know what you think of the tune. I will see you next time. Peace.